Hey guys, welcome to my channel Total Angrezi by Vidushi. Do subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon to never miss an update, and do give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Okay, so today we are going to do chapter 2, Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. I have received quite many requests personally and through this channel Total Angrezi to cover this chapter. According to me, the inclusion of this chapter is a very good decision. I know y'all are finding it hard, but trust me, after you listen to this video today, I am sure the chapter is going to be in your heads for life if you understand it in the way it has been intended. So let me make this very simple, and the good news is I have broken down this chapter into two parts so that I can make it easier for you, since it's a difficult story, since it's a difficult chapter. So what I've done is, for the first time on my channel, I'm going to do a line by line explanation of this lesson so that you get the actual intention behind writing this. Now, before that, you need to know that this has been written by Nelson Mandela himself. So it is much like a journal, or it's like a diary. In the second half of Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom, I'm going to, as usual, come back to the summary, the meanings, the use of those meanings correctly, and we'll be doing we'll be doing a round of question answers. So let's go ahead. Let's do a line by line or paragraph wise explanation. We'll skip and jump directly to where it starts. Now he has written this by himself, and he's starting from the day of 10th May. Let's start. 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. So he begins by saying that he is remembering the day 10th May because for the last few days, and because of the preparation of this day, which was the inauguration day, he had been surrounded by a lot of important people. And it was for the first time ever that international leaders, people from around the world, were coming to South Africa. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Pretoria is a place in South Africa. For decades, this has been the seat of white supremacy. White supremacy, as in, we all know that they were being dominated by the white people, and there was a problem of racism over there since they were black. The people of South Africa were originally black. So for years they had dictated over them, and finally this was the day that they got freedom. So this is why he's saying for decades this had been the seat of white supremacy, and now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors. Why? People of all colors were welcome. White, black, fair, all of them. And nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. So this was a very important thing to him, that it was for the first time that on this inauguration, without any conditions of race, that black people cannot come, white people cannot come, people who are in between those two colors cannot come. There was no condition. And secondly also that they were a democratic, they were no more under anybody's rule. So this was for the first time that this was happening, and that is why it was such a big day. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. On the podium, Mr. de Klerk was first sworn in as second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. So what is he trying to say? He is trying to explain the ceremony that took place on that day. You have seen the swearing in ceremonies that happen in our country too. When a prime minister or the president is appointed, there is an oath ceremony where a lot of people come, they all take their oaths. So this is exactly what is happening here. He's just sharing who had gone with him. That was his daughter. First, they swore in the second deputy president. Then they swore in the first deputy president, and finally it was his turn to come and take an oath. So on that day, he promised to devote himself to the well-being of the republic and its people. I over here is all Nelson Mandela. It is all first person. He has written it himself. So here's the oath. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Why? Because they've just got freedom. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. So he's saying that they have gone through such a big disaster, extraordinary human disaster, because they were not treated well in their own land, and it went on for a very, very long time. And now he says we will make a society in which people live so beautifully that everybody, all human beings, will be proud. We, who were outlaws not so long ago, have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We thank all our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. So he continues to say that in our own country, we did not have any privileges. We were outlaws. We were outcasted. But today, on this day, on the 10th of May, they had the privilege to welcome people from all over the world, from different nations, to welcome them on their own soil, on their own land. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is all a common victory. So he's saying that this is a celebration for them because they have finally got justice, they've got peace, and they've got their dignity back. So he's welcoming all the people who have come there. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. So again, he's talking about how they have pledged and how he's going to pledge, he and his team of people who's going to work with him, that everybody who have been in a bondage, they've been tied down by poverty, deprivation, suffering, all of that, they're going to eradicate all of that. They're going to remove all of that. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. He also takes the pledge that never again will there come a time in South Africa that somebody else will oppress them. Oppress them means to treat somebody very badly for a very long period of time, which is what exactly happened to the people of South Africa by the white people. So he's promising them that that would never happen again in South Africa. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. So this is a beautiful way that he's ended his oath. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers roared in perfect formation over the Union buildings. So this is just an air show that he's having, and he's explaining what was happening there. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. So he was saying that the show was so beautiful, it was so precise, it was so appropriate. But that was not the only thing that they displayed. They displayed that by putting up such a beautiful show, they displayed how they were happy with what was happening and that they supported the new democratic government. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So a few moments before this air show, all of those people in uniforms, bedecked means completely decorated, army people, military people have all those very important badges that they have won for their work. So they came in front of him and they pledged that they will loyally protect their newly democratic country. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before, they would not have saluted but arrested me. Why? They would arrest because the white people were ill-treating them, they were dominating them. And he was seeing how life had become a big change, that sometime back these were the same people who could have arrested him for being somebody who was against what was happening. And finally they have come and saluted him and taken a pledge in front of him. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black red, green, blue and gold of the new South African flag. So they emitted those colors that were used in the South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems and the vision of whites singing Soki Sikekel, E Africa, and black singing Taste Them. These are all African pronunciations, but I prefer you remember them. The old anthem of the Republic. So he's saying that both of those, the olden national anthem and the new one, they sang both. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem, they once despised. They would soon know the words by heart. So he's hoping that they will all learn the new national anthem very soon. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history, which means that he is remembering what had happened in the past. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned peoples of their own land. So he's talking about a time when this war broke, and it was even before he was born. He, as in Nelson Mandela, was born. That all the white people in South Africa united together and they all became against the dark-skinned or black people. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world has ever known. So they were known to be very mean and very bad to them. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade as a man, that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples regardless of the skin of their color. So now he's saying that so many years later that has changed, and now there is no discrimination against color, and everybody in South Africa would now be able to live a free life. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people. He's remembering all those people who had helped bring about this freedom. People whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. So he felt like he was him because he was a mixture. He was a result of all of those patriots who had fought for their freedom. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. So he was saying that noble line ended, and now with him becoming the first elected president, he was sure that a very big change was about to come. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. So he was saying he remembered those people who died fighting for the freedom, and he was hoping that he could have thanked them and they could have seen that they finally got what they always wanted. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. Apartheid is a policy where it was a law to be mean or to treat the dark-skinned people badly. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. He says how those people in South Africa, those black people in South Africa, they were so hurt by what they had gone through that it would take them years to recover from that pain. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sisulu, the Chief Luthulis, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Sobukwe of our time, men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom and generosity that their like may never be known again. So these are all the prominent names who have fought against this policy of apartheid, where they were all treated very badly, where black people were treated very badly. So he is remembering all of those people, that if that would have not happened, these people would have never been the kind of people they were. Perhaps it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of character. So see, he's saying exactly what I just said, that you need something so bad to happen, only then you will bring out that personality in you that requires this strong character. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. So he's saying that he knows that his country is very rich in minerals that grow underneath the soil that they can do mining with, but he believes that his greatest wealth is its people, who are the finest and purest diamonds. Why? Because they are hardworking, because they are loyal, all of these reasons. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Comrades are colleagues or people who accompany you in something. So he learned the meaning of courage because of them. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So he's saying that courage does not mean that you will never get scared. Courage means that you will be able to overcome that fear. Fear is the most natural thing. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So these were his personal thoughts, that everybody feels scared, but only when you conquer, only when you fight that fear is what makes you a brave or a courageous person. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So he's saying that if people can learn to hate each other, why? When do they learn to hate? They don't learn from their mother's womb. They come here on this planet, they see that this is what they are taught, and so that is why they do that. But on the other hand, if you just teach those little children who come into these lives to love, then it will be a more natural process, because human beings are made to love, not to hate somebody. These were all Nelson Mandela's beautiful thoughts. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of those guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep going. So he's remembering those days. Grimmest times is the darkest times, or the most serious times, when he and his comrades, his friends, were in the prison for this freedom struggle that they were going to. He remembered and he saw that sometimes there was a glimmer, a slight shine of humanity in one of those guards. They would do maybe something nice for him, or say something nice to him, or bring him something, or perhaps that's what happened. And that is when he felt that, okay, there is still some humanity left and people are still worth fighting for. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. So he's saying that when you teach people to hate on purpose, he still has that goodness inside him. So if you can never extinguish it. It's like a flame. If you're a good person, it's like a flame. You can only hide it, but you cannot extinguish it. In life, every man has twin obligations, means two obligations. Obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. So neither could he do something for the society nor for his own family, because they were under domination. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. So they were not allowed. Otherwise, they would be punished, or they would make them leave the place, or they would be made a loner who is not allowed to speak to anyone. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight of existence of secrecy and rebellion. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. So he's saying that he couldn't choose with what obligation he wanted to go, because in South Africa you had to do what you were told to do. You cannot stand up for your people, for your family, for your society, or for your community. So this was not his first choice. He did not want to leave his family duties to come and serve the people and the society and to fight for freedom. But he found that this was what he needed to do. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free in every way that I could know. So when he was born, obviously he did not know that that South Africa was not a free country. free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. So, this is the kind of freedom he knew. So these were the things that he wanted, and he was getting to do that. So, he didn't know that the country was in such a huge problem. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. At last, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I chose. So he's saying that until he was a little boy, he didn't feel the need for freedom. But then when he grew a little bit older, he started feeling some shackles. He wanted more freedom. He wanted his parents to let him go on night outs, or go to his friend's place, or roam around with his guy gang, or do whatever of that sort. Very understandable feeling as teenagers, I believe. And that's when he felt that he didn't have enough. He wanted freedom to choose for himself. But he says transitory freedoms, because this is something that you want only in this particular age. As you grow older, people tend to lose such kind of feelings. I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read, etc. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So later on, when he grew older, for him the meaning of freedom changed again, where all he wanted to do was get a good job, get a good paying job rather, to marry, to have a family, and to live a very beautiful and lawful life. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. That when he became a very big man, he realized that the freedom was not only for himself. Freedom is something that you should want for the entire society, and even his brothers and sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. So that is when you realize that everybody who had the same skin color as him did not have freedom. That is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So when he realized this, that his own people weren't free, he joined the African National Congress, and he realized the true meaning of freedom was for people, his people. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. So, after joining the African National Congress, these are all the things that happened. He started feeling this desire to free his people in his country, and that is what changed his life. It changed him from being just a frightened young man into a bold man. He was a law-abiding attorney, he was a lawyer, but he became a criminal. Why? In the eyes of the white people, he was a criminal because he was fighting for freedom. It turned him, a family-loving husband, into a man without a home because he was punished. He had to leave his home. That forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. That means that somebody who loved life so much, he had to live like a monk. He had to make sacrifices. I am no more virtuous of self-sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. So initially he did not know that this is the true meaning of freedom. But when he did come to know, he came to know that those were all not the kind of freedoms he wanted. Those were all limited freedoms. And now he is living a very, very limited life after knowing that his people weren't free. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. So he came to know that chains are not something that you can divide. If the black community is changed, or if the people who are dark skinned, if they are changed and they are dominated over, that means that everybody is. It's not one person or two person, and those are all those people that he wanted to stand up for. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindedness. So he's calling all those people who oppressed against them, who ill treated them, that they are jailed, they are behind bars, they are in a prison because they have prejudice and they are narrow minded. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken away from me. So he's saying that this is a two-way circle. It's like a two-way traffic. If the oppressor must be liberated, like if the dark skinned people needed freedom, even those white skinned people needed freedom from what? From prejudice, from narrow mindedness. Because if you keep doing something to oppress somebody else, neither of them are free. Not just the black people were not free, even the white people were not free. So that is what he's saying. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity, because the dark skinned people are not allowed to live like human beings, and the white skinned people, because of their thought process, they were behaving inhuman. So they were both not free. This is one of the best thoughts that he has expressed in this journal, and this is where it ends. So this video has gone a little long, to about 25 to 27 minutes approximately, but this line by line explanation is surely going to make things a lot more easier for you all to understand. To all those people who've been requesting for this video, a big thank you. It took me a little time to come up with this video, but in the second part of this video of this chapter on Nelson Mandela, I'm going to be coming back doing another quick summary for you all. We'll discuss some question answers, we'll get some meanings, and that's when you'll know that you're completely prepared. So if you're not able to understand this chapter properly, and if you're finding it difficult, this is the one video you need. So we'll see you in the next video very soon. That's going to come back, and till then, keep watching, share this video with your friends so that even this chapter can become easier for them as well.